Nottingham Forest haven't just beaten, they've smashed Liverpool, winning by 3-0 at Anfield. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down how they did it. We're going to be taking a look at the tactics that Nottingham Forest used to not only stop Liverpool in their tracks, but also exploit them going the other way. And we're going to be taking a look at those all-important goals that gave Forest this massive win. Games at Anfield are extremely difficult. Nottingham Forest and Dyche will know this, which is why in the initial phases and in the beginning parts of the game, Forest wanted to absorb pressure and prevent Liverpool from going forwards, and they did just that. Utilising the way that Liverpool wanted to go forwards and understanding the positions that they wanted to put their players into, Nottingham Forest absorbed the pressure by condensing the pitch, making sure they weren't able to progress through the centre. They did this through dropping back into 2 quick banks of 4 and having 2 players just ahead of them to shuffle across, essentially creating a 4-4-2. But it was the spaces in between the midfield and defensive lines that was so very impressive, and it was this line that prevented the Liverpool midfielders from being able to get into those attacking aggressive positions, the pockets that we always speak about. What this inevitably did for Liverpool was prevent them from going through the centre, almost creating a wall or a buffer for these attacking midfielders in McAllister and Jones to be able to enter into those pockets to stop that real danger from coming to the forefront. This meant that what happened was they were shuffled round towards the sides, and you've got a really good example of this right here. Look at how condensed this Nottingham Forest side is. You've got Ndoye on the far side, you've got Dominguez close to you. Look at how close together they are. You've got Sangare pushing onto McAllister, but apart from that, this Nottingham Forest side is really compact, and it's almost creating a buffer. Look at these Liverpool midfielders, they're unable to enter these pockets of spaces, and it was from that point that they were able to create the baseline and the foundation for them to go forwards and then start to create those Nottingham Forest attacks. And then from that foundation, once you have your base, you have the ability to then propel yourselves like a spring on the counter-attack. This is something that Nottingham Forest, especially under Nuno, was able to do to a fantastic degree. And Dyche has brought an element of that back into this Nottingham Forest side, and it's made them so very dangerous. Take this example right here. Mo Salah is about to cross the ball into the box. This is following a corner or a couple of different crosses into the box, and you can tell that because you've got Van Dijk and Konate at the moment. The ball gets cleared and it goes over towards Jesus, who is managing to get his head onto the ball before Alexis McAllister. This allows Nottingham Forest to progress forwards, but it's then this moment right here that's incredibly important. This is another individual battle between the Nottingham Forest player and Ryan Gravenberch. Once he goes past, he gets the ball over towards Jesus once more, who is then able to progress forwards. Again, another duel that has been won. Dan Ndoye is far on this left-hand side, and that causes Konate to panic and then put the ball out. It is a simple but really effective method of being able to get up the pitch. Pace, power, but winning your individual battles and winning your duels gets Nottingham Forest up the pitch and a corner. And from that resulting corner, Nottingham Forest get their first goal. It's a fairly simple goal, but it's got some really intricate little pieces that we're going to be focusing on. So the ball gets whipped in, it gets half cleared by Liverpool and goes over towards the corner of the 6-yard box. Now, this might sound really simple, and it is, but the touch that Murillo has is absolutely sensational. It just gives himself an extra moment to be able to set himself and then take his shot. Another thing to mention is the positioning of the player in front of Alisson and whether he impacts his vision. I can understand the argument from Liverpool fans to say that he does, but don't take anything away from the strike because it's absolutely sensational, fired into that bottom left-hand corner. It is a brilliant goal and puts Nottingham Forest 1-0 up, something that their tenacity, their ability to win those individual battles initially has given them, and it's the bedrock that they require if they're going to set themselves up to be difficult to beat at Anfield. But for this game plan to work, you need the second phase of it to work as well, and that is winning your individual battles out in those wide areas, the areas that you're pushing Liverpool into. You need to make sure that you're able to win those individual battles to then allow yourselves to go forwards and create that platform. This is something that Nottingham Forest, and in particular Nico Williams up against Mohamed Salah, did fantastic, and in fact for me was the bedrock and the pillar that Nottingham Forest built build their progressive attacks from. When we think about Salah, we think about him being that incredibly influential player, but what Nico Williams was able to do was essentially lock off this Nottingham Forest left-hand side, that Liverpool right-hand side. Nico Williams had 11 tackles in this game, more than any other player on the pitch. He in fact won 14 out of his 19 ground duels. That's incredibly impressive, and up against Mohamed Salah, left Salah winning only 4 out of his 16. Salah had a performance which saw him lose the ball 37 times, more than any other Liverpool player. And as I said, this set the bedrock, it set the foundation for these Nottingham Forest performances. Duel winning is incredibly important and going to be a massive topic that we're going to be speaking about throughout the rest of this video, and I believe this really set the tone and allowed them to start to go forwards. Moments into the second half, Forest double their lead, and there is so much to unpack here, so please do bear with me. Let's talk about this initial phase. You got Savona driving forwards onto this right-hand side, but notice this Liverpool side. While there is space in between the midfield line and the defensive line, that seems fairly normal, but what isn't normal is how narrow they are in comparison to the Forest width. While it is understandable that you might want players to tuck in, the positioning of Ndoye is really crucial here right next to Kirkesh. Because he's made an infield run, it's naturally tucked Kirkesh in, and that's opened up this a massive channel of space for Savona to start to drive forwards. It's from this point that he manages to play a cross in, and while Liverpool might think that there is an opportunity for them to clear their lines, and while they think that they're in a decent defensive situation, they're not. And they're not because they don't win those individual battles. And speaking of those individual battles, the real highlight that we spoke about a little bit earlier has come to the forefront once more. I'm of course talking about Nico Williams against Mohamed Salah. Watch this right here, because this is fundamental. It is incremental in the creation of this Nottingham Forest goal. Williams plays it back towards the midfielder. He then makes a movement infield. Notice the distance between himself and Mohamed Salah. This is absolutely crucial, because as he moves forwards, Salah stops. Salah leaves him, and he doesn't follow the run of his opposite number, of his opposite fullback. That is crucial. This forces McAllister to chase the run of Williams, and it naturally just pulls apart this Liverpool side a little bit further. Not only that, but because they don't win those individual battles, because they don't win that individual duel, it gives Williams that little bit more space to then play a cross in. But again, it's that particular position just in front of Savona, just before he's going to receive that pass, that McAllister could have been there to intercept. But because Salah doesn't follow the run, there is an opening. And it's that opening that gets played through into Savona with a brilliant cross from Nico Williams, who I thought, as I said, was sensational on the day. And it gives Nottingham Forest their second goal. A fantastic commitment from the players, fantastic flooding of the box. Look how many players they have here. It's absolutely brilliant. But they've capitalised on the lack of real judgment, on the lack of real commitment of these Liverpool players, and they've outfought them to nearly every single duel. It is quality from Forest. And before we end, guys, let's take a look at Nottingham Forest's third and final goal. They were sensational in this game, and this goal was yet another highlight as to how brilliant they were and how they punished this Liverpool side. First thing to note, look at how narrow this Liverpool side are. Look at both wingers. Look at the distance between the two of them. They're so narrow. What do you do against narrow sides? You obviously isolate and exploit that space. That is exactly what Nottingham Forest do, and they switch it out really far and wide over towards Amari Hutchinson. He is then closed down by Andy Robertson, but look at the spacing between them. Look at how much time and space Hutchinson has to set himself and then drive forwards. He drives past both Liverpool players like they're not there. It's just no contest whatsoever. Takes a great shot up against Alisson, but again, look here, he's nearly uncontested. It's incredible. Second thing to note is look at the space that Morgan Gibbs-White is in. Just brilliant yet again. So when it comes back out from the deflection from the goalkeeper, look at the amount of time that Morgan Gibbs-White has to take a shot. It's on his left foot, so it's a little bit more difficult, but he manages to fire it into the bottom right-hand corner. There is no Liverpool player near him. Nottingham Forest were absolutely superb, and this was the icing on the cake. A fantastic performance, a fantastic goal, and a sensational win for Sean Dyche and Nottingham Forest. But of course, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you, so please do get involved. What did you make of Forest? What did you make of Liverpool? Let me know. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.